A third monolith has appeared. A third one, this time in California. I wasn't even going to report on this except in passing, except that this time something odd happened with it, and I think it'll either make you smile or at least give you a good chuckle. We could all use a laugh or something that lifts our spirits these days, so today we'll dive into the appearance of a third monolith, this time in California. A place where, if there ever was a place in the United States where a monolith should appear and fit right in, it would be in the state of California. Let's get into this. But before we get started, I wanted to thank the patrons and the channel members and the people who support this channel directly for their support. It has helped greatly to keep these podcasts coming, especially in these uncertain times. If you want to help for as little as $1 a month, you can join us on Patreon, Subscribestar, or by clicking that join button on YouTube. People requested that I have a P.O. box, so I have that too. In the description, you'll find details for all of that. We're heading into a time where authentically Catholic messages are going to have to be supported by the typical everyday Catholic instead of getting support from anywhere else. That's just the state of things. Anyway, thank you for your support. And now on to our topic. That out of the way, I'm going to remind you of a basic truth of the Catholic faith. Christ is King. Viva Cristo Rey is the standard that we live by as Catholics, or at least we should live by. Long live Christ the King. Christ is King of all creation. That is something to remember. When the monolith in California appeared, some took that to heart. Let's go to the story. From the Associated Press. This article was sent to me by a viewer, by the way. Quote, days after the discovery and swift disappearance of two shining metal monoliths half a world apart, another towering structure has popped up, this time at the pinnacle of a trail in Southern California. Its straight sides and height are similar to one discovered in the Utah desert and another found in Romania. Like those structures, the origin of the California edifice is also mysterious. It's at the top of a hill in Atascadero, halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles. KEYT-TV reported Wednesday. The tall silver structure drew hikers to the area after photos were posted on social media. A structure that appeared last week in Romania is also gone. The Utah creation evoked famous land art pieces that dot the West. Robert Smithson's spiral jetty is an earthwork along the Great Salt Lake, and Nancy Holt's sun tunnels are big concrete pieces in the desert. Like those pieces, the monolith was fascinating in part because of its context in the landscape, said Whitney Tassie, a curator of modern and contemporary art at the Utah Museum of Fine Art. That's a big part of land art in general, is this idea of an experience, of a journey, she said. The intense social media reaction to Monolith against the backdrop of the present situation, along with the quick disappearance of the piece, has become a part of its story, she said. Police have said the dismantling may not be illegal since no one has claimed the structure as their property. End quote. The idol in Utah was taken down, as was the one in Romania. No word on who put them up or if they were the ones who took it down. In response to this, some enterprising young men in California decided to pay the idol a visit. And I use the term idol because I suspect that they think it's an idol too. The screenshot you see if you're watching this on YouTube comes from a video that got shared around on Twitter. A link to that is in my show notes for the day. I can't put it here because of the things they say in their clip, but you can view it for yourself if you're so inclined. One of the things they said while removing the monolith was, "Christ is King," over and over again. It's worth noting that the monolith was removed with little effort, leaving me to think that these are designed to come down relatively quickly if needed. Remember, the one in Romania went up and was removed very quickly, as was the one in Utah. After removing the California one, they replaced it with a cross they likely made in their garage, while repeating that Christ is King. It's an interesting gesture, especially given a couple of common themes running through all the sites we've seen them at thus far. When the fourth one appears, as it inevitably will, see if it fits the bill of what we've seen so far. I suspect more and more that these are some kind of stunt to promote a message about the environment. The AP article on this gives some clues to this. Quote, the still anonymous creator of the Utah monument did not follow steps taken by land artists of the 1970s to secure permission to make their works. Visitation to those remote sites is now managed and overseen to avoid too much stress on the environment. Federal and state officials in Utah had also expressed concern about the area around the monolith being overrun. It's good to think about our relationship with the Earth, which is ultimately what these sorts of projects do, Tassi said. Man's impact on the environment front and center. End quote. There is a message surrounding the environment with these things. This brings us back to the original Monolith, the one in Utah, that had appeared according to Google Earth images back in 2016, right around the time a film by the name Monolith was being filmed in Utah. Perhaps that's a coincidence, but if it is, it's a doozy of a coincidence. The monolith was removed right when my first video on this stuff went live. According to USA Today, the people who removed that one did so for impact on the created world. Quote, two adventure athletes who advocate a leave no trace philosophy towards nature have stepped forward to say that they were part of the team who removed the Utah monolith, the celebrated structure discovered in remote southeast section of the state. Celebrated? Yeah, right, okay. Utah residents Andy Lewis and Sylvan Christensen posted a 23-second video showing the 10-foot metal structure, once embedded into the rock, being dismantled, loaded onto a wheelbarrow, and carried away at night. We removed the Utah monolith because there are clear precedents for how we share and standardize the use of our public lands, natural wildlife, native plants, fresh water sources, and human impacts upon them, Christensen wrote on an Instagram post, urging people to protect valuable public lands. Things like this don't help. End quote. He then went on to cite how visitors to the site had been treating the area and using their vehicles to damage otherwise untouched land, using the area as a restroom, and that sort of thing. The Romanian monolith was planted and then removed from protected land that required permits to access. Humorously, the local authorities said the idol was poorly constructed by a local welder, which numerous people watching the video I made on that also were happy to point out. But it disappeared quickly, too. The California monolith, which appeared on Pine Mountain, Atascadero, is, on again, protected land. Now, in America, something like 25% of land is owned by the federal or state governments, and in any rural area, you could practically throw a rock randomly and hit federal land. But I think the choice of locations for these things isn't coincidental. Placing one on protected land that will then illustrate how pristine and untouched these lands are by, well, touching the lands and attracting people to them is likely the real purpose here. But maybe I'm wrong on that. It's entirely plausible that this is part of some strange marketing campaign. Keep an eye out for some products to be pushed using monolith imagery. If that happens, then you'll have your answer. Though I do suppose that some people expect this to be the work of Cardinal Supage's space brethren, come to build their bridges for a better tomorrow. I doubt that one will be the case, as I would expect Martians to build something better than a flimsy metal tower that 4 college-age guys could remove with their bare hands without breaking a sweat. That's the story as it stands now. Increasingly, my money is on it being part of an environmental message. Think Smokey the Bear message, but for 2020. Then again, did any of you have mysterious monoliths appearing on Earth on your 2020 bingo cards? I didn't, and this has been a very strange year, and if this is how we cap 2020, I'll take it. Compared to other possibilities, this is just more silliness from the world. But again, there are unresolved stories in the city of Man right now, and they'll likely be resolved by year's end. So maybe it's premature to call this 2020's capstone. Let me know what you think about this, because this story is getting weird. Like I said, keep an eye on it. But as always, keep praying for the church. Thanks for listening. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.